Hello wonderful people, I am Sarah and I'm doing today a baking day. So I did about 4 years ago, I did a baking day video. As much baking as I had it in me to do in a day. I think I spent about 4 hours from memory. And just making a whole heap of baking for kids' snacks, lunch boxes. I did some bread, I made some crumpets for breakfasts, that sort of thing. See how much I could do in a day. Something that I'm doing this time round, which got brought up quite a lot to me last time, is the cost of electricity. A lot of people said, wow, I bet you saw a spike in electricity that day. So I've incorporated that this time into the cost of baking everything. So we'll see if it still is cheaper with the cost of electricity incorporated. Of course, the price of ingredients has gone up, but the price of buying things pre-made has also gone up. Quick disclaimer, this is not something that I do every week. My tactic is more to make things as needed. Like I made 1 loaf of bread on this day. Normally I'd make at least 3 or 4 loaves of bread over the course of a week. You know, I'll make some tray baked crumpets as and when needed. Baking, if we run out the next day, I'll make something else. So that's just what's easier for me, because I do get a sore back if I'm stood up in the kitchen for too long. And also last time I did it during a school day when the kids were at school, because that's just easier. But this time I thought, no, I'm going to get the kids involved, so I gave them 1 recipe each. So they picked out 1 thing each to make. My oldest just did a batch of popcorn because she's good at it and she loves it. Now I got my son to make some banana muffins. He was a bit iffy, he wanted to make something chocolatey, but we did have some bananas to use up, so there was a bit of negotiation. He made banana muffins with a tablespoon of cocoa powder in, so they were chalky. So, and then my middle child Samantha, she made some apple slice, because that is just super easy, super simple to make. So I think it's a good thing to get your kids involved in the kitchen. It's a good bit of time spent with them and it's life skills. Now quite often I find when, unless you're doing it in a big batch that I did, the thought of making something versus buying it, I mean of course it's easier, quicker to grab it off a supermarket shelf, pay the money, done. But often the thought of making something is actually worse than the act of doing it. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if that makes sense. But like, take bread for example. I've got a no-knead bread recipe. It doesn't take long. It takes about 5 minutes to throw all the ingredients in a bowl and get yourself a dough ball, and then you just wait for it to rise. It's not a big time investment to make each of these things. The muesli bars that I make, sometimes I think, oh, I can't be bothered, but then it is so quick and simple. You know, just melt the ingredients together, spread them out in the fridge, and they're done. And I would suggest, if you're wanting to get into baking your own things, just start small. Don't go buying tons of ingredients and thinking, right, I'm gonna make all this stuff, because you'll get overwhelmed. Start small. 1 thing a week, and this is what I did. I started off, you know, just discovering the tray baked crumpet recipe, and I got into the habit of making crumpets once a week. And then I thought, oh, I wonder if I can make my own bread. And so just maybe once a week or once every couple of weeks, add a recipe to your repertoire. You know, just find something that you think, yeah, or have a look at what you normally buy and think, instead of buying this packet of crackers and putting it in my trolley, could I actually make those next time? And just give it a crack, because it really is cheaper to make than it is to buy, even with electricity included. Now of course the other major is that you know what's in it. If you're trying to cut down your salt intake or your sugar, or for environmental reasons you're wanting to cut down packaging, that is all in your hands then. You know, you have the power to. Quite often if I'm taking a recipe, My apple slice recipe is a prime example. The original recipe actually had double the amount of sugar in it. I didn't think it needed that at all. I actually replaced half of the sugar with some rolled oats to make it really nice, bulky and filling. And it is still really nice and sweet. It is still really nice. A lot of recipes that I do, you know, I cut the sugar down, sometimes by as much as a half. Sometimes just I'll cut out about a quarter of the sugar because I'm not big on sugar. I used to make my bread with a lot more salt than I do now. I've actually cut that back quite a lot. I used to put about a tablespoon of salt in each loaf of bread. Now I only put about a teaspoon in, and it's fine, it's good. And you'll find when you make your own things, like my yogurt is an example, the Greek yogurt that I make, I find, although it doesn't last as long, shelf life wise, as the stuff you buy, but you can get creative. I make so much 2-ingredient dough with Greek yogurt and self-raising flour. As soon as my yogurt just starts to turn, I'll put a bit to one side and I'll make another batch of yogurt with it, and with what's left I'll make some 2-ingredient dough and use it for either pizza bases or savoury scrolls or cinnamon sugar scrolls or something like that. There's heaps of stuff. You can make English muffins with 2-ingredient dough. That is so super yummy. But you can get creative, and also when you make a litre of yogurt from 2 litres of milk, I use powdered milk, you'll notice. You can also use, you get some whey, about a litre of whey left over. Don't throw that out, use that in your baking instead of milk. So that's one way of actually cutting down the costs even more. When I'm making those crumpets, I often use whey instead of milk, and I often make the crumpets because I've got whey to use up. So it really is just about thinking and using things that you've got instead of buying things. Now also a little trick that I do is behind my pantry door, when I open my pantry, I actually stick recipes behind my door, especially ones that I make often, like my wraps, my crackers. I've got those recipes actually stuck behind the door, so I don't need to sort of look up the recipes. I actually do refer back to my own videos for recipes because I'm not so big on writing them down anymore. I just keep them. I do all my recipes. If you look down below in the description of the video, I think there's like a grey box with text in. You might have to press more or see more. I always write down my recipe. I get asked that a lot. Have you got your recipes written down? If you look in the description under the video, yes, all my recipes are written down. In this one, I'll probably just put links to each of the recipes that are mentioned in this video. And in each of those videos, you'll see them all written down. I know I keep getting asked for an ebook. I think I've been asked twice this week alone. It's in here. I know that's no good to anyone that it's in here, but it has been in the back of my mind for years. One day I will get there. Now, one advantage of doing a big baking day as opposed to doing it throughout the week is preheating the oven. You can cut back on your electricity if you do everything, like my muesli bars, the popcorn, and making wraps all used the stove top. Now when I turned the stove top on, my daughter popped the popcorn with it. She turned it off and the heat was still there, and there was still enough residual heat there to actually start making the muesli bars. I didn't actually have to turn it back on again for that. So there's just little tricks to reducing your electricity. Preheating the oven. If you've got a whole heap of stuff to do at once, you can either, depending on your oven, depending on your settings, you could cook 2 things at once, or you only have to preheat it once and then it just stays warm and you just out and in. Now when it comes to electricity, because I know this is a big thing for a lot of people, I actually went to a few different electricity companies' websites because a lot of them actually give a summary of how much certain appliances cost to run. The general consensus was that an oven cost about 60 cents per hour, including the time to preheat it. So that's the kind of thing I went off. Consumer NZ actually had a website as well where they had a whole heap of things listed. Slow cookers, they estimated between 17 and 29 cents per hour to run. So I went on the upper end of it because I didn't want to be seen as cheating. So I did that. They reckon your elements on your stove top is about 45 cents per hour to run. So I worked out how long I'd cooked each item for and how long I'd spent, and I worked out the electricity from there. Just out of interest, the total electricity that I used that day for all the cooking and baking I used came to $2.48. If you were to do that every single day, that would really sting. But that $2.48 once a week, that's not such a biggie, especially when you look at the cost of buying the items. So in total on the day, I made a litre of yoghurt, 14 muesli bars, 156 grams of popcorn, 10 wraps, tortilla style wraps, one thing of apple slice, which actually weighed 1 kg, just slightly over 1 kilo, 12 banana choc muffins, sorry, 15 crumpets, 323 grams of crackers, plus whatever I may have munched on throughout the day. There may have been a couple missing. I'll show the total ingredients that I used to make all of that. Now I'll just say I got all the prices from my local Pack and Save on the day of doing the baking. So of course prices will vary. They'll vary throughout New Zealand, they'll vary supermarket to supermarket. If you go to Couplands, you might get some things cheaper than Pack and Save. You go to the Mad Butcher, you might get meat cheaper, you know, all that sort of thing. So just for the sake of simplicity, I got all my prices from the one Pack and Save, where I actually do most of my shopping. Some items I go to the warehouse, that sort of thing. But generally, I just looked up Pack and Save online for the sake of simplicity and got the cheapest alternatives that I could find. I did not cheat and compare my baking to the most expensive brands. So, you know, my nice big lovely loaf of bread, I compared that to the budget loaf of bread. So with the yogurt, to buy 1 litre of Greek yogurt at the moment, the cheapest I could find was $6.19. To make it using powdered milk in a slow cooker, it cost $2.40 for 1 litre of Greek yogurt, and of course I was also left with 1 litre of whey, which you can use to replace milk in other baking. To run the slow cooker, I had it on for about 3 hours. I didn't time it, but I'm guessing on the upper end it was about 3 hours. That would have cost 87 cents. The muesli bars, the cheapest muesli bars I could find, which last time I did this video I also compared muesli bars, and last time they were $1.98 to buy a 6-pack of Pam's muesli bars. Now they're $2.29 to buy. The muesli bars were 30 grams each. You get 6 muesli bars in a box, which comes to 180 grams. To make them, I spent $4.32 in ingredients. My muesli bars were 50 grams each. I made 14 muesli bars, which came to 700 grams. So comparing them, I compared the prices to 3 boxes of store-bought muesli bars, came to 540 grams. If I'd done 4 boxes, it would have come over the amount than what I made. So with comparing them as well, the stuff that I make, you're actually getting a bit more than the store-bought comparison. So that's something to bear in mind too. The muesli bars, the popcorn and the wraps, I just worked out the total time for those 3 that I had the element going on the stove top. I had it going for about 30 minutes, about 45 cents per hour, so about 23 cents worth of electricity to make muesli bars, popcorn and wraps. Now the popcorn, how long is a piece of string with all the different types of popcorn you can buy? So I just went with plain buttery popcorn, which is what I made. Of course you can get ones with that have like 10 snack packs in. Super duper handy for lunch boxes, awesome. $6.19 for 10 snack packs, which comes to 120 grams popcorn in total. Or you can buy bags of it pre-made, 150 gram bags for $2.39. So of course that is much cheaper. If you're going to buy a big bag and package it up yourself, that's going to be way cheaper than buying it already in individual packs. There's so many different microwave options and that sort of thing, but I'm just going to leave it at that for now because I could have gone on forever comparing, and maths is not my strong point. So, you know, I hope you guys appreciate me mathsing for you guys. But for the kernels that I bought, we used about half a cup of kernels, cooked them up on the stove top with some decent knobs of butter. Well, when I say butter, I mean cheap table spread. That's what I've substituted everything for with my baking. We used about 5 cents worth of table spread, about 71 cents for half a cup of popcorn kernels, and we made about 12 cups of popcorn. There's approximately 13 grams in a cup, so I made 156 grams of popcorn for 76 cents. Divvied them up into bags. The bags I used to put them in, by the way, came from like pick and mix. Like I often buy seeds and things to put into my bread. Just keep the bags, you know, they can be used, they can be washed, use them over and over. So, you know, that's a saving as well. The wraps that I made, the cheapest, I think they were Pam's brand, the cheapest wraps I could find at Pack and Save came in a pack of 8 and they were $3.58. So that's, you know, that's not super expensive. However, to make them, I used flour only. That's the only ingredient you need for wraps apart from water. Flour, water, you can put a dash of oil in if you want to, not necessary, just makes them a little bit softer, but 79 cents for 5 cups of flour. At the moment the warehouse is selling bags of flour for $1.90 for 1.5 kilos, so that's what I automatically buy each week now. So it cost me 79 cents to make 10 wraps. Now we get on to stuff that I did in the oven, and again I just equated electricity wise. I accounted for the total time I had the oven turned on, so I will let you know that for the bread, apple slice, banana choc muffins, crumpets and crackers, I actually had the oven on for about 2.5 hours, 140 minutes, costing about 60 cents per hour. Would have come to $1.38 to make all of the things that I made in the oven in electricity on that day. Now of course everyone's oven varies. It's always going to be different. It depends on the size of your oven, how you're cooking it, how often you're opening the oven, because every time you open it, it costs to reheat it, what the seals are like around the door of your oven. My bread, to buy it, the very cheapest loaf that I could find at Pack and Save was $1.15 for the value brand bread, which it's not that great, but you know, it's bread. So $1.15. If you're buying some of the really nice sort of Plowmans or Freyers, the nice grainy stuff, that's more like $3.79. So, you know, bread varies greatly depending on what you're buying. To make it, so it's $1.03 to make a homemade loaf of bread. So it's not a huge saving from the budget loaf, but having said that, they're flimsy, they're not filling. You can tailor this bread to your own tastes. So it's up to you. If you're more inclined, I mean, I'd compare my loaves more to the likes of Plowman's in the way that it's nice, it's decent, it's filling. If you're doing that sort of thing, then yeah, that's a big saving. So that's a personal preference. The apple slice, I was shocked actually when I looked at the prices, because the price to buy a slice like that I think last time, a few years back, I compared it to an Ernest Adams thing, but apparently Ernest Adams aren't a thing anymore. I didn't know that. To buy it from the Pack and Save bakery, something comparable, as I say, it might be cheaper from the likes of Coupland's or another local bakery in your area. I'm not sure, but it was $6.69 for a 350 little thing of, you know, a sweet slice. To make it, $2.22, and that made 1 kilo worth of apple slice. So you'd have to buy 3 times those apple slices to actually make up for what I made there, which, yikes, that's a huge saving if you are buying that sort of thing. Banana choc muffins, to buy them, a 6-pack was $6.49 when I checked. Again, you may get cheaper alternatives elsewhere. To make them, it cost $3.39 to make 12. So of course, you know, if you're buying 12 muffins, that's over $12 there, compared to $3.39. It's all sort of swings and roundabouts. I mean, it depends what you buy, doesn't it? I mean, if you're on a tight budget, I doubt you would be buying the likes of those super expensive bakery items. But if you are, absolutely make it yourself, so much cheaper. Tray baked crumpets, the kids often have them for breakfast in the morning. They're different from your store-bought crumpets, as I've explained in my video. They're still super yummy though. To buy a 6-pack of crumpets, it's $3.29 was the cheapest I could find. To make them, it cost $1.53 for a tray which made 15 crumpets. So you're looking at about $6.60 to make the equivalent of $1.53. The crackers, again, I looked at the cheapest, sort of non-grainy, not flash, I think they were just snacks or something. The crackers that you can buy were in a 250 gram box and they were $2.79. Doesn't sound that expensive, but when you can make 323 grams, which I did, tailored to your taste, got seeds in them, got a bit of paprika, a bit of salt, yum, it cost 69 cents for the tray of crackers, for the couple of trays of crackers that I made, and it was 323 grams, so you're getting more for much, much less. The cost of ingredients that I spent altogether, $19.60 to make everything that I made that day. To buy the store-bought equivalents altogether came to $62.60. Bearing in mind you're getting less when you buy it than what I compared it to. Out of interest, 4 years ago when I did this video, my cost of ingredients was $17.89. The cost to buy, I did slightly different recipes then, but the cost to buy everything that I made for those ingredients was $46.82. So I'd say the cost to buy things has actually gone up more than the cost of ingredients has, going by that. Now, of course, if you were to do this every week, you'd be saving about $43 every week. If you look at that annually, that's $2,226 you could save every year. Of course, it will vary person to person, what you make, how much of it you make, what your habits are, all that sort of thing. I hope you guys appreciate me doing maths. Absolutely, hit me up, share what recipes you make, hit up my Facebook group, share things you make. You get bonus points for working out the cost. You get street cred. Hopefully this video provided some inspiration. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Hit the like button, it helps out with the algorithm for me, and we'll catch you next week. Okay, have fun out there, bye.